What's happening, everybody? Ryan Thomas live late night on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. What a weekend. What a weekend this was. I can't even wrap my head around it. I mean, Saturday, the Sabres win decisively, 7-2 in their home opener, paying homage to their 50 seasons. This is the golden season for the Buffalo Sabres. 50 years of Sabres hockey. The presentation, the pageantry of that game was amazing. I really wish I could have been there. Watching it on TV probably didn't do it justice. But bringing out the captains, bringing out, all the people, that were wearing that C on that sweater with the Sabres logo on it. It was just, that was really awesome. And then you have the results of that game, 7-2, Sabres win. The fights Saturday night, last night, being that today's Sunday, as this is being recorded, were great as well. Dan Hooker, breakout performance over Raging Al Iaquinta. He pretty much dominated him. I mean, I thought that was a really risky fight for Raging Al. I even said that in the pre-fight stuff, that Dan Hooker, man, he is tough as nails. He's long, he's rangy, nasty elbows, nasty jab, very elusive in there too, quick feet, everything. That was the co-main event. And then in the main event, you had Robert Whittaker looking to defend his title against the UFC interim middleweight champion, Israel Adesanya, obviously. And then today, Sunday, was the Bills' fourth win of the season in 5 games. The Buffalo Bills are 4-1. The Buffalo Sabres are 2-0. And last but certainly not least, the Trainwreck Sports brand has 10,000 followers on Twitter, which is amazing. And the fact that I get to be a small part of this brand among everybody else who, we're all chipping away at something in order to make things great, making sports talk great again, or making sports talk better than ever before. The Trainwreck Sports guys, it has been a phenomenal journey with these guys. I met these guys a year ago. Probably as of the 8th. And I mean, meeting these guys has completely changed the trajectory of my show and getting my name out there and people recognizing who I am and my shows and everything. Really cool stuff. I am very thankful to have the show on the platforms that it's on and just everything. And this has been a hell of a process. Today we recorded the Thomas Takeover post-game show to recap the Bills game. And I kind of had to stop and smell the roses and just say, hey, this journey started out with me 4 years ago not having the slightest inkling of how this was going to turn out. I didn't know what direction this was going to go in. I didn't know what this would be like. And to know that it's headed in the direction that it's in, and honestly, I don't know how you can't get a little misty-eyed or choked up, because when you take a stab at something that people rarely take a stab at, or something that you put yourself on an island, hoping that everybody sails to the island, so to speak, I guess. It takes time. It takes work. It takes dedication. It takes a mindset that you are going to take over whatever it is that you're trying to do. You are going to take over, whether it's, trying to make something happen, trying to lose weight, or trying to get a podcast going, or trying to find a better job, or just my mentality has completely changed because of this podcast. Because originally, 4 years ago, was not in the same mindset that I'm in now. I thought, well, I'll try it, see what happens. Now, 4 years later, I'm like, no, I'm going to make this happen. This is going to happen. I'm going to make this show bigger than anything that's ever existed. I don't care what the haters say. I don't care if people say, no, you can't do that. No, that's not possible. Keep tuning in. Watch and listen. And you'll be surprised at what somebody can do when they have the energy, the spirit, the drive, the dedication, the mindset to do it. I know I've been shocked at my own successes, the show's success, my success within the show's success. I never thought that this would be possible. I thought it could happen. I know that I have an ability to engage and get people to talk, whether they agree or disagree. I know I can talk on the mic and get people to react to what I'm saying and get people to understand my viewpoint of sports. I've always been able to have these discussions with people I know, people I don't really know. That's just one of the things that have been a big part of my personality ever since I was a little kid. And I look at where I'm at now. Not to date myself, but I'm going to date myself. I'm 27 years old. Western New Yorker, whole life. And I want to take this thing to different places. I want to take this thing to levels that can't be seen right now by the haters, by the people that don't think I can. And I don't do anything to prove anybody else wrong. I've changed my thought process ever since I started this show. My thought process is I'm not going to do anything to prove anybody wrong. I'm going to do it to prove myself right, because ever since I was 7, 8 years old, this is what I've wanted to do. It just took me, a journey to realize that. Sometimes you know what you want to do, but you doubt yourself. Maybe you have people that say that you can't do it, or maybe you have a person that you think does believe you can do it, but you just don't feel like they're really in your corner, or you just have your own self-consciousness in the background, in your head, just telling you that you're not good enough to do it. I don't have that. I know I'm good enough. I know that this show is entertaining. I know that this show has kept people on the edge of their seat. I know that this show has captivated a lot of people, and it really blows my mind. It really does. And it brings a smile on my face, and it makes me laugh a little bit, because it just makes me happy. It honestly, it really makes me happy. So, to the 10,000 people that have decided to click the follow button, to the 1,100 plus that have decided to click the follow button on my Twitter account, follow Trainwreck Sports if you haven't. Follow me if you haven't. We're one in one, hand in hand, looking to really make the sports coverage unique, better, and different than anything you have ever experienced before. And I bring something different to the table along with the other, 10, 12 gentlemen that are a part of the brand with me. And I'm so thankful to be grouped up with these guys. This is a great partnership, strong partnership, and one that I see being a very successful one. It already is, but one that I see continuing to be a successful one. So there you have it as far as that goes. Let's get to the subject matter, though. As I said, we had a crucial UFC middleweight title fight. Robert Whittaker, the UFC middleweight champ, looked to defend his title against interim UFC middleweight champ Israel Adesanya. And to give you a little bit of a backstory to this fight was a couple years in the making. A lot of things had to happen in order for this fight to be the fight that would define who the true champ of the UFC middleweight division truly was or is. And now we have that answer. We know that Israel Adesanya woke up this morning as the UFC Middleweight Champion. And before I get into that, before I get into Israel Adesanya, I really want to talk about the fight itself. Early on, getting into the fight, I thought that Whittaker could win it because Whittaker is really good at everything. But I did say, to kind of counteract my point, to play devil's advocate to my own point for the viewers and the listeners of the show, that Whittaker is good at everything. There's not one thing that he's really, really great at, but there's not anything that he's really, really bad at. He's good at everything, well-rounded, good striker, good wrestler. And I thought that he would fight this fight smart, being that he's got the strap, he's got the title. Israel Adesanya is trying to take it from him. If you're the champ, make the challenger come and take it from you. Where Robert Whittaker fought the exact opposite. I think that was his biggest detriment in this fight. To his biggest detriment in this fight is that Robert Whittaker was super aggressive. Robert Whittaker went right after Israel Adesanya, tried to throw as many punches and kicks at Israel Adesanya as he could. And I think that was in large part due to the fact that Israel Adesanya talked a lot of smack heading into this fight. Said a lot of things heading into this fight that had Robert Whittaker a little bit heated. This became a New Zealand versus Australia rivalry, whereas Robert Whittaker, representing Australia in Israel Adesanya's eyes, Robert Whittaker is actually from New Zealand, was born in New Zealand. So there was a little bit of, oh, you're not a true Australian, or no, you're not a true New Zealander, or oh, you're not a true this, true that. And that was a real insult to Robert Whittaker from the lips of the mouth of Israel Adesanya to Robert Whittaker's ears. And I wondered, watching that countdown show, watching the Embedded, watching all the stuff pre-fight, if that would change anything, if that would make the performance of Robert Whittaker a little bit different. Maybe he'd be overzealous. Maybe he'd be too relaxed. Robert Whittaker threw almost triple the amount of strikes that Israel Adesanya threw in that first round. And in the process, he got dropped in the end of the first round, put on his butt. And if that round hadn't ended, if there was 25, 30 more seconds left in that round would have ended the fight. The fight would have ended itself. Israel Adesanya would have been the reigning champ in the first round of that fight. So when that situation plays itself out, that first round, Robert Whittaker gets knocked down. He's flat on his butt. Didn't know where he was. I mean, the guy was on the precipice of being knocked out unconscious. He gets to his feet, goes to his corner, knew where his corner was, did have enough wherewithal to know that, but was probably called over by one of his cornermen. Sits down on the stool, and you can tell that his mind is just not really all there. And then that round starts, and it's like, okay, so we know we got to damage Robert Whittaker. But Israel Adesanya played it like a true champ and like a true veteran would. Israel Adesanya did not go after Robert Whittaker early on in that second round. And most fans listening to this right now, whether you're listening on Twitter, whether you're listening on YouTube, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, no matter what platform the Thomas Tick Sports Podcast is available on, which is pretty much every platform, you would say, why are you saying that, Ryan? Why are you saying that was a veteran gamesmanship move, that Israel Adesanya didn't go after Robert Whittaker? Shouldn't Adesanya have gone after Whittaker? Shouldn't Adesanya have swarmed Whittaker, being that Whittaker was already hurt? No. That whole narrative of, oh, you got to swarm the guy, don't let him get his bearings. What Adesanya did last night was an extremely impressive performance to capture something that he had wanted, something that he believed he deserved for a long time, and something that it only took him about a year or 2 years to achieve. And he wasn't going to be overzealous in this fight. He wasn't going to just stand and trade and, go blow for blow. As cool as that looks on a highlight reel, as cool as that looks to the fans that are drinking the beers and eating the nachos, that's not what Israel Adesanya was looking to do. He was looking to fight a smart enough fight that would win him a UFC championship. So when Robert Whittaker was a little bit wobbled and comes back out that second round and is a little bit overzealous again, Israel Adesanya did the true gamesmanship, true vet move, allowed Robert Whittaker to throw those punches, throw those kicks, and wait for the counter opportunity. Wait for the opportunity to throw a big punch while Robert Whittaker is low on stamina, low on energy, low, whatever you want to call it, and truly damaged. Because for every couple punches that Whittaker threw, some landed, some didn't. Adesanya was starting to land clean punches, whether it was one punch or two punch. He was starting to land clean shots. Those clean shots were really wearing down Robert Whittaker because he was already badly hurt in the previous round. So Israel Adesanya waited for that moment, stayed patient, and then when Robert Whittaker actually started to land stuff on Adesanya that looked to be harder than normal as far as the power on the punches, Adesanya really started to then open up too, and we saw a little bit of a back and forth there, a little bit of that trading wars type style, Gotti versus Ward type style is what I'm trying to say. And Adesanya then dialed back and said, no, I need to go back to my basics. I need to go back to what I've trained. Let this guy exert himself. Let this guy throw punches at angles that he's not going to touch me. Based on the way Adesanya holds his hands, he keeps his hands down at his knees because his arms are so long, and he kind of moves his head. He's very elusive, very light on his feet, and boom, he clips Whittaker with the hook that was so quick that Whittaker couldn't have seen that coming. I mean, no fighter at that angle in that position, because Whittaker was not in a great position, but he was not in an angle where he could even see that punch or see that shot. Beautifully timed, beautifully placed, and then the follow-up strikes after that, and Whittaker was badly hurt at that point, and the referee stepped in before it got too ugly, which was a really nice gesture by the ref. And new UFC middleweight champ Israel Adesanya, 18-0, undefeated. This time last year, or 2 years ago, Israel Adesanya was making his UFC debut. And here he is, 2 years later, the UFC middleweight champ. And I look at this as a fan and I smile ear to ear, because the 185-pound weight division has a fighter that is an extremely active fighter in the cage and outside of the cage. He likes to talk. He loves his personality, his gimmick. Everybody loves him. He says things off the cuff. He talks the talk, walks the walk, but he is actually a very, very humble guy. The talk in the octagon is about the fight. But as far as being a man of his people and trying to be the most honorable champ possible, he is a fresh breath of air for the public relations disasters that the UFC has had as far as champions or former champions. I'm talking about guys like Conor McGregor. I'm talking about guys like BJ Penn. I'm talking about guys like John Jones. Israel Adesanya will do it right. Israel Adesanya will achieve within his career the right way. Achieve or not achieve. And I'll get to that a little bit later, but this is a true moment in the sport of mixed martial arts that I don't think can be overstated or understated enough. Israel Adesanya is a superstar, and we're just along for the ride. This guy is a true superstar. This guy will elevate the sport of MMA to new heights that haven't been reached yet. And this guy will bring relevancy back to a UFC middleweight division that kind of became a dog and pony show. Not to, insult the great George St. Pierre or to insult the great Michael Bisping, but this is a new era. This is an era where we're seeing a truly special fighter who's very young achieve something that he knew he could achieve, and he's got a list of contenders ahead of him, but who is not going to sign the bottom line or the push the pay button, push the buy button on a card that has Israel Adesanya on it now? I don't know many people that are true MMA fans that wouldn't want to see this guy fight. He is a draw. And they're so few and far between in the history of MMA, but Israel Adesanya is one of them. And I look at him as a fighter that if he can string together a few wins, if he can become his own era, he could really be something special that the UFC hasn't had since the days of prime George St. Pierre in his welterweight run, or prime Anderson Silva in his middleweight run, or prime John Jones, his first run as a UFC light heavyweight champ, because it's gotten a little murky for obvious reasons with his legal troubles. But he's got a test waiting for him now. He already knows who he's going to fight next. He's not fighting Robert Whittaker in a rematch. He finished him. Anybody clamoring for Whittaker to even get a rematch? I don't think so, but Whittaker needs to get another win before that happens. I'll say that right here, right now. But Paulo Costa is the next man up. That's the guy that deserves the title shot. That's the guy that has earned the title shot to get the first crack at the new crowned UFC middleweight champ, Israel Adesanya. And I don't know what more this guy has to prove, because I do feel like there's still naysayers out there for Israel Adesanya. He's proven it all. He's proven that he can avoid the takedown. He's proven that he can take a hard shot. He's proven that he can punch with power. He's proven that he can kick. He's proven that he can get out of submissions. He's proven you want to talk about someone who's very well-rounded along with Robert Whittaker. Well, he just knocked out the guy that was very well-rounded, that allowed him to be the champ with that well-rounded skill set. Israel Adesanya just knocked that guy out in the first and second round. A couple seconds there, that fight's over. I said that a little bit ago. I meant it. This is a great moment in the sport of mixed martial arts. I can't say it enough. I hope it lasts for Adesanya, but even if Adesanya's got the title, got the belt wrapped around his waist, around his shoulder, and fights Paulo Costa, who I think is a tall order for anyone, whether it's Whittaker or Adesanya. I said that on my Instagram. I think Adesanya will be relevant for many years to come. And I think this is a real opportunity for the African-American fan base to explode within the sport of UFC, MMA, the UFC organization, MMA, within the New Zealand fan base. They just saw their hero win the title. Within every race, gender, no matter what, I think Israel Adesanya is a transcendent superstar. The guy just has to surround himself with the right people, and he'll be in real good shape. Real good shape. I like the trash talk. I like the bluster. But I think some of it, now that he's got a belt, he's got to act the way that I know he can. And I've seen him act this way. Respectful to the organization, respectful to the fans, respectful to his opponents. Before the fight, during the fight, you don't have to be. But before the fight, he can say what he needs to say to win, to get the pay-per-view buys. But there's a way of promotion that you can still talk trash or whatever you want to call it, but you can do it in a way that is about the fight, and the fans respect that. But when you make it about religion or race or anything like that, that's when I change the channel, because that's just not human. That's just not right. We've seen fighters do that. Conor McGregor being one of them. So don't go down that path. Anybody that says, oh, you got to do what Conor McGregor did. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's the last guy I would want Israel Adesanya to model his career after. Israel Adesanya has he has his own purpose, arguably a bigger purpose than what Conor McGregor had when McGregor was coming up the ranks. And I say that because the fan base that Israel Adesanya can snatch isn't watching MMA right now. The fan base that Conor McGregor captivated was already watching MMA, and they already knew who he was. Israel Adesanya can bring new fans to the sport of MMA in a way that nobody has ever done it. And I love the fact that this guy is such a business-savvy, smart guy that he's in that octagon. He trash talks who will probably be his next opponent, Paulo Costa, and then he realizes that he's in the Marvel Stadium in Australia. And he says, Marvel, hit me up. Any movie, anything like that, hit me up. Let's make it happen. Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor in the Avengers and the Thor movies, is in the crowd. It's like, dude, are you any smarter? I hope he gets a role in one of those movies. I hope he makes that happen. He deserves it. Because this guy has been through the grinder that is the UFC as far as his climb to becoming a championship fighter. I mean, in 2019 alone, this guy has already fought 3 fights. In 2018, he fought 3 fights. He's fought 6 times. He's fought 6 times. February 9th, well, we'll go back. Fought April 14th against Marvin Vettori. I remember watching that fight and saying, this guy's legit. That was in April of 2018. He fights Brad Tavares on July 6th of 2018. Fights Derek Brunson in November. Won those first 2 fights by decision, but won against Brunson by knockout in the first round. 2019, he wins by decision against Anderson Silva. Then he fights a fight of the year candidate for, this fight could be fight of the year between Adesanya and Gastelum. And then he wins that decision. Then he parlays that in a knockout victory to win the title yesterday against Robert Whittaker. Israel Adesanya is most definitely the fighter of 2019. The last style bender. Even his nickname is cool. But I will say there is a dynamic of stardom. There is a dynamic of being at the pinnacle of your career that can get away from you. And that's jumping the gun and talking out of turn. And I think Adesanya, to a degree, has done that. The last guy that deserves to fight Israel Adesanya is John Jones. Let me say that again. The last guy that deserves the opportunity to fight Israel Adesanya is John Jones. If I'm Israel Adesanya, I'm not even mentioning John Jones. I don't even act like John Jones even exists. Why would you give John Jones your platform? Why would you give John Jones an opportunity to tear down your platform? The one that you've built on your blood, on your sweat, on your tears, when John Jones has done nothing but build his platform up and tear his own platform down. And I don't care about, oh, well, he's redeemed himself. He's won a couple fights, referring to Jones. Oh, he's redeemed himself. He's won a couple of fights. No. Those things still happened. Those things were not learned from. those things are still, to a degree, happening at a level that we don't really see right now. But I'm sure there's thousands of stories about how Jon Jones is not the greatest human being on the face of the earth, most of which are true. And for Israel Adesanya, that's not the case. So why is Israel Adesanya pursuing this fight with Jon Jones? Make your own legacy at 185 pounds. Make your own name as the middleweight champion. Become a great at your weight class. You don't need Jon Jones, and Jon Jones doesn't need you. You just won the title. I got a lot of fans, saying, hey, I think this would be a great fight, Ryan. What do you think? Of course it would be a great fight. But that's not the point. This is a business at the end of the day, and that would be a great fight. That would make a lot of dollars, but it would not make much sense. And I say sense, S-E-N-S-E. And that's due to the fact that Jon Jones does not deserve to step on the platform that Israel Adesanya has just finished building. I want Israel Adesanya to stay in his lane. I want Jon Jones to stay in his lane. And we'll move onward and upward. Eventually they can fight 2-3 years down the road. Fine. I'm cool with that. But not right now. I want Israel Adesanya. I want Izzy to fight Carlos. I want Izzy to fight Paulo Costa at 185 pounds in the next 5-6 months. Because Adesanya deserves a break. This guy's fought 6 times, 3 in 2019, 3 in 2018. Dude has done enough, but he probably won't get that break because he's got the belt now. But he should. He deserves it. He deserves to get the victory tour. He deserves to get promoted and pushed more than any fighter has since Conor McGregor. More than any fighter is compared to Conor McGregor. Conor should not be getting the promotional push anymore that he was, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago. Those days are over, fans. Those days are done. Let's promote the new faces. The sport moves on, whether you're Anderson Silva, whether you're George St. Pierre, and especially whether you're Jon Jones. If you're Jon Jones and you find a way to screw up, you find a way to be a shithead, and do all the things that you did, they'll move on without you, even if it's temporary. So that's that. The sport moves on. Israel Adesanya is a new face. Israel Adesanya is a decent guy. And for now, I do not foresee the belt changing him for the worst. And I hope I'm right on that. I really do, because I think this guy could really be one of those great, I don't want to say Ali-like figures, but you guys know what I mean. A fighter that could really change things culturally with his platform. He's got a lot of tools. He speaks well. Decent looking guy. I'll throw him that bone too. Decent looking guy. He's got the intangibles to be that type of champion. Israel Adesanya, the next MMA superstar. I'm Ryan Thomas. That was the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Great victory for Israel Adesanya, the next MMA superstar. Robert Whittaker, tough loss. But how about that co-main event? Ali Quinta coming up short against Dan Hooker. That was a call out from Hooker. Hooker called out Ali Quinta, asked him to come to New Zealand to fight him. Al said, sure. Now Dan Hooker is calling out Dustin Poirier, former number 1 contender for the UFC lightweight title, former UFC interim champion, mind you. Talk about knowing what was next. Dan Hooker called the shot once. He's trying to call his shot again. I like it. If I'm Dana White, I try to make that fight. We'll see what happens. I'm Ryan Thomas. Take care. Expect more. Expect more MMA coverage throughout the week. We got some real good events as far as UFC, as far as Bellator, UFC October 12th, I believe. Joanna Jędrzejczyk fights Michelle Waterson. That's a really good fight. I'm going to be diving into that fight this week. And probably going to the Sabres game this upcoming week. So that'll be fun too. I'll talk about that. to give the sports fans sports coverage on all things sports, whether it's NFL, MMA, MLB, NHL. Am I missing one? NFL, MLB, NHL, MMA, boxing. That's another one. Might talk a little pro wrestling on here too. Eventually, might make that happen because I'm pretty well. We could dive into it. Actually, dive into it this week. The whole Cain Velasquez, Brock Lesnar thing. We'll give that a few days. Let that fester in my head. Let me get my own thoughts about that real quick. Alrighty. I'm Ryan Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. A late night. If you can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm a little tired. Long day, long weekend, but a great weekend nonetheless. Let's go Buffalo 1, Buffalo WON, the Bills and the Sabres. Great stuff. Thanks for tuning in. I'm not here to take part. This is the Thomas Takeover. I've really enjoyed it. Join the Takeover. Follow me on Twitter at Ryan Thomas Take. Follow me on Instagram at Ryan Thomas Take. Posting a lot of 60-second impromptu sports takes that people don't even expect coming. I love it. I love this, and I love all the support from you guys. The listeners and viewers, cannot thank you enough. Take care, and enjoy your Victory Monday. I know I will.